And welcome in everybody to another episode of the High Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate y'all for joining us here on this Wednesday evening, or if it's one of your favorite places to check out podcasts later on. It is DJ joined as always by my co-host Kelcey. And you know what, Kelcey, we don't do this very often, and if we do it often, we probably should do it more. We kind of need to take a moment here to humble brag because last week we did our home run derby predictions and we each picked the final one right, and I was roughly 13 centimeters away from possibly having a perfect pick, which meant you yourself had the perfect pick for the home run derby.
Yeah, very doesn't happen very often. I say that, but I feel like one of us usually gets something right about a championship or finals or something lately. We've had a pretty good record recently. But yeah, no, obviously me picking Teoscar Hernandez kind of went out on a limb because I didn't want to pick any of the favorites. It didn't feel right to pick a favorite, and it kind of worked out to my advantage. And then you went the other way and maybe picked one of the top favorites there and almost still pulled it off. Although, I'll be honest, I didn't think Teoscar was going to make it in the semifinals or as Witt stepped up to potentially win the game in the swing in the extra time he had. And that was a wild home run derby, a great home run derby, honestly. Really fun to watch. I do enjoy this year's home run derby style.
Absolutely. I mean, I looked at him and he was, I think, fourth in the betting odds when I picked him. I was like, he has the right swing. I think he's the kind of guy that's not going to wear himself out early. So I felt pretty good picking it. And you know what? It felt pretty good right up until the end there, but unfortunately, no deaths. And an awesome performance from both of them as Hernandez is going to takes home the home run derby. And also a shout out while we're here to Jaron Duran from the Red Sox, a first-time All-Star. He gets to leave with a little bit of home hardware himself as the American Leagues come back 5-3 with a win in the All-Star game as well. And that big two-run homer from Jaron Duran. So on a night when Paul Skeens and Shohei Ohtani show up, he actually has a little bit. He takes it home. So you know what? Awesome performance from Jaron Duran, the first time All Star, and Red Sox starting to turn things around a little bit too. So maybe, just maybe, they might be onto something starting now. We'll have to wait and see for sure.
Yeah, we'll see if they can pull something off. But congratulations, Jaron Duran. That's not easy to do. First time All Star, first time MVP. Impressive, nonetheless. So. Congratulations to them. But yeah, Paul Skeens. I think if there's any doubters on Paul Skeens' talents, they got corrected real quick and in a hurry here because that is an impressive turn of events for that guy where he's shutting down the top tier talent that is the AL batting lineup. It was impressive to watch.
Yeah, absolutely as well. So we want to take a moment to mention that as well too and give a little shout out to Kelcey with his accurate prediction there. But it's as good as time now as any to take us into the tip off, and the tip off, of course, is brought to our good friends over at SeatGeek. Use code LayUpSports over at SeatGeek to get yourself $10 off your first set of tickets on any sporting event, concert, or anything that requires tickets. Go and get yourself a free $20 off on your first set of tickets, and that'll lead us now here into the opening part. And what we'll be talking about here today is a potential big name on the move here in the NFL is Brandon Ayiuk officially requesting a trade from the 49ers, a long offseason, drawn out contract negotiations and everything in between. So the chance of Brandon Ayiuk potentially being on the move and looking at it as well, I think for me, the question is A, what it is going to take to get him? And B, if they do trade for him, how much do you have to pay him afterwards? Because you also got to throw in a contract when you get him as well. And as awesome of a talent as he is, I'm curious. There is rumors he wants to be in that upper echelon, the $30+ million club too, which makes sense. So I'm curious to see what kind of teams decide to trade for him. I'll go and just kick it off. I know there's been rumors about the Raiders because of his connection with Antonio Pierce. There's also rumors about him going to Washington with Jaden Daniels and that sort of thing. So those are ones to keep an eye out on. There is a recent one of him of the Devontae Adams being in charge of it as well too. So I'm curious to see where he goes. For me, when I look at it, the one that really sticks out to me that I think would be a really, really fun potential move for him, I think a really underrated one might be the Buffalo Bills. The question is, do they want to pay him? Because if they want to pay him, if they want to give him that money, I think it's a good deal because you add an explosive receiver one back into that offense. I'm a big Khalil Shakir guy. I like Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid at the duo, James Cook. I think they got a lot of weapons, so they don't necessarily need him. But if they want to maybe get that little extra bit of a jolt, I think that could be a fun trade for him to send him over to Buffalo. Just give Josh Allen yet another weapon, see if they could retool quick, fast, and hurry. I don't know if they'd be able to afford to pay him. That is kind of the big question there. Of course, I think maybe another team that might be interesting would be maybe Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville, you have Christian Kirk. You did bring in Brian Thomas Jr., so you got some good weapons there. Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne. So those are I think that could be very interesting. See what Trevor Lawrence does if you give him somebody like Brandon Ayuk. I don't think they necessarily have the cap space to make that trade or the assets, but if they did, you could throw him in there. Then that moves Thomas Jr. to arguably your receiver 3 with his skill set. Brandon Ayuk and Christian Kirk in there, that would give them a very, very, very dynamic set of receiving options. So I think one of those two teams are ones that really, really stand out to me. And then there's, of course, for me, the Chargers too. I think if they could just be like, you know what? So why not give Justin Herbert just give him a weapon. You already built the team to run the heck out of the ball. Let's go and throw in Brandon Ayuk too. See if you probably could afford to pay him with some of the salary cap you save. So he's got a lot of potential suitors. I think there's quite a few good teams that could definitely use his services.
Yeah, I think, to kind of pick a team, if you need a receiver, I don't think there's a better name on the market for you right now, especially if you need, a 1B option. I don't know if it's a 1A necessarily, but definitely a 1B option. I do think Aiyuk's there, but yeah, I mean, then again, with that said, I've seen receivers like him excel as a 1A option. So there's tons of options for him. For me, I'm looking at somebody kind of maybe sneaking on the radar there, the Vikings. Potentially being an option there. They need a receiver. They need somebody for JJ to throw to that's going to be healthy come week 1. And Brendan, yeah, that too. I don't know if I was going to go there, but yeah, that definitely is a part of why I'm saying the Vikings. I do think there's other options, though. I do think, as always, there is the Chiefs, because as much as everyone hates to admit it, they do need receivers. And that's, I mean, you kind of have to play that game if you're everybody else. Potentially just take him just so the Chiefs don't get him. Like somebody offer something so the Chiefs can't have him. That's always an option. Also, don't sleep on New Orleans. Nope. Everybody's kind of. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know what they can pull to make it happen. But we've seen all sorts of gymnastics happen with the salary cap over the years. The least surprising one that potentially could happen would be Brandon Aiyuk to the Saints. To me, I've seen fluky things happen, and why not? But I do think your Chargers pick is a great option. So it's worth mentioning that was my number 1 pick. But we try not to do the same thing all the time. But yeah, it's that's always a good one. I just think what LA needs is a good receiver that can get open at any point in time, and especially work around the goal line. You lose Keenan Allen, you got to replace him with something. So Brandon Aiyuk, great option there to do that.
I really think it's funny if Aiyuk was on the Chiefs, because he would be the slow guy in that room. When you have him next to Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, and that'd be the one room in the entire world, arguably, Brandon Aiyuk is considered the slow guy, it feels like. And then him on the Chargers, him and Ladd McConkey would be a very, very interesting Jekyll and Hyde, how they have very different skill sets, but are very, very comparable, and I think would work very well too. There's a lot of good options there. If he doesn't getting moved, I think the only question will be who pays him and how much, because they definitely got to be able to give him a contract. You don't want to give up what you have to for a 1-year rental deal, unless it's like a trade deadline thing and you're 7-1 and you lost a number 1 receiver or something, I guess. Then maybe you go all in for it. But I think there's some options there for sure. But anyone who is checking in, go and let us know down in the comments or anywhere down below where you think Brandon Aiyuk would be a very good fit for. I think just about every team in the league could use his services. But let us know where you think there's the Jets too. We didn't throw them in there, but you know what? They're already in the Devontae Adams thing. You don't get to be in every receiver trade suite. Yeah. You only get a handful of them. But let us know down below where you think Brandon Aiyuk, if he is to get traded, is potentially a good move. If he does it all, we did see this less than 1,000 days ago, almost identically with Deebo Samuel as well. So maybe it ends up getting worked out for them as well. But let us know down below where you think he should go in. That's going to wrap up a very quick tip-off for us here today, but there's a good reason for that. Is this going to take us now into the main event? And for the main event, we're going to have a little bit of fun here. As we talked about last week and previously, we're going to try and give you all a little bit more with fantasy football this year. And so what better way to do that than have ourselves a fantasy football mock draft today. So right now you got four of us in here. You got me and Kelcey and then 2 others, plus 6 CPU teams. So we're going to mix it up with a little bit of CPU and a little bit of human just drafting as well. We're just doing 10 rounds. That's 30 seconds per pick. We're going to race through this. This isn't to be taken literally. This is just how do you operate under a bit of a pressure cooker. So we're going to go ahead and jump into these draft settings and get ready, because we're going to randomize the order, randomize teams. And would you look at that? It looks like Kelcey is taking us from the top, and then the rest of us are cleaning up the back end. So
let's go.
You're live, a completely live randomization. So no one can say that it was rigged for Kelcey, even though I almost want to recount. But you know what? We already did it once. So we're going to go ahead and start the draft. And my friend Kelcey, it looks like you are on the clock, good sir.
Yeah, obviously, look, I did great with Christian McCaffrey last year. Finished second in 3 of my 5 leagues. So I would think I would take Christian McCaffrey, but you would be wrong if that's where I go. So I'm not going Christian McCaffrey. And
Good
everybody's going to be
man.
like, well, why? Why? And it's because he has never followed up a good season. And running backs, and specifically in fantasy, have never followed up a top running back performance season with a top 10 performance. So I'm going to go Justin Jefferson here because Jay Jettas, why not?
Absolutely. And as you can see, we do have those auto picks. So you take Jay Jettas, who I have as the number 1 receiver right now, and we'll be having our draft boards coming out before long. 30-second clock, CMC, CD Lamb, and Tyreek Hill, the next handful of picks to go. For those of you watching us here live in video form, you're able to see it as we go. For those of us who are listening on the audio version, we are now pick number 5, where we have our good friend from the corner booth, Jared, picking. Looks like he might be missing his pick here as well, so his might end up going to auto draft as well. We have a 30-second timer just so we can get rolling. And he does end up with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Puka Nacua follows him. So it looks like now I am up as it goes pretty quickly. And I get arguably the guy I would take if I was picking number 1 right here. I'm going to go ahead and take Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall is going to be electric if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, or if he's not, Tyrod Taylor is there, and he's better than Zach Wilson. So I think Breece Hall is going to be electric. And then we have Jamar Chase at number 1, and we are now at pick number 9 with our next human pick. So we got Bijan Robinson. Oh, go ahead, Kelcey. Go ahead.
I'll say this kind of follows. I'll go back to Jared's pick real fast. I know it was an auto pick, but honestly, Amon-Ra St. Brown in that pick was I honestly tempted about upsetting everything and going with him as my number 1 overall. But if anybody's watched any of the offseason receiver stuff, he's coming off of injuries, so that's problematic. But then your pick with Breece and then Bijan Robinson makes a lot of sense, especially PPR leagues, for going with those running backs that can receive.
Absolutely. And it's my turn again as we see Marvin Harrison Jr., A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Jahmyr Gibbs go after that. Right here, I'm tempted to take Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley, but receiver is important. This is a PPR league. As I look at the receivers as well, I'm going to go with Tay Adams. We're going to go with Devontae. I think that is a rough quarterback situation in the Raiders, but we know him and Aiden got a good rapport. And if we know anything about Gardner Minshew, he's going to put it up. He's going to put that ball up in the air for that number 1 receiver. Yeah,
no, not a doubt in my mind. That's a good pick. And look, who knows where he ends up at with Devontae. If he ends up in New York, A-Rod's going to get him the ball. And then Jared here with Saquon, that's kills me because that's exactly what I was thinking in my head. Which takes me, all right, this is where I'm in a torn position. Do I go for a running back? Do I go for a quarterback? I have the first option here, and I got double picks, so I'm going to go both. I'm going to go quarterback Josh Allen, and then I'm going to double it up here, and I'm going to go with, this is tough. I'm going to go Josh Jacobs with my running back. Give him the opportunity there in Green Bay, but he might be splitting picks, so this might be one of those situations, or splitting carries. This might be a situation where I didn't make the right choice here.
I disagree. I like Josh Jacobs. I think later round 3 is ideal, but you wouldn't get him in later round 3, so I think that's a good pick. As we do see after that, Ayiuk, ETN, Kelcey, Jared grabbing Jalen Hurts, and then Drake London going. And now I am back on the clock. I'm looking around too. I really like some of these running backs. I'm going to go at this is tough for me too, and I got to pick quickly. I don't have a whole lot of time here to.
Yeah, I'll say time is ticking there, man.
This is kind of the fun part about it. I'm going to take Rashid White, the running back from Tampa Bay. He had an underratedly good season last year because he gets the ball thrown his way. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
We're going on pure receptions there. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, PPR is why I would pick him too. You got to keep in mind sometimes these drafts with what type of draft you're picking for. If it's PPR, it's one thing. If it's Roto, it's a completely different situation. And then, here, PPR makes just a lot of sense.
Ooh, and we see DJ Moore go, which that was unfortunately going to be my pick here as I am up yet again. I do have receiver. There are some good running backs here I'd like to take, but the bye weeks I'm not too sure with. So I'm going to go ahead and take Michael Pittman Jr. I'm going to double up last year. He was kind of my sleeper pick last year along with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we're going to double up on there because I think he's going to get a lot of targets again. I think he's just hanging out Anthony Richardson if he's healthy, knocking on wood. He's got him. They had a good rapport. So I'm going to take Michael Pittman here. Maybe a bit of a reach, but he's not going to be here for me in round 5.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like the pick. I think it's a good safe option for where you're at. And wow, you see a bunch of different guys go off. My top 2 receivers just went. Actually, a third receiver. I didn't realize Jared picked Nico. So Nico, Cooper, and Jalen Waddle all gone. That leaves me with, again, back-to-back picks here. I already have my quarterback. I have a running back, but I don't have a second running back. So that always comes into play here. And I might surprise the people, or not, probably not. I'm going to go with James Cook here for my second running back. I'm going to leave Isaiah Pacheco alone. I don't really like him as much as most people, so I'm going to leave that. And then as my next pick, I am actually going to go here with I'm going to go Tank Dell. 60% snap share for that team coming off an injury. Can he perform? I think he can. I do like that Houston team for any sort of draft pick.
I'll say real quickly, I love the James Cook pick. I have him highly rated. After that, we do see Pacheco, Trey McBride, and some others go. Devontae Smith, Jared's building the Eagles, and Nico Collins over there. Patrick Mahomes just went right before me. This is a tough spot because there's a lot of guys I want to take right now, but I don't have enough picks to take all of them. So I'm going to go to tight end, and before he is gone, I love what Dalton Kincaid can do this year. It might be a bit of a reach here too, but I think Kincaid's going to get targets this year. I think he's going to get the ball in that Bills offense. So I'm going to go.
Yeah, and that was a consideration for my turn pick instead of Tank Dell because Jared took Nico Collins, which is obviously the number one option right now in Houston. I questioned whether Tank Dell was going to be the best option, but you know what? I decided to let it ride because I trust that I have a backup option here at tight end, despite there being 5 off the board already.
Absolutely. Then after that, we did see Lamar, Mark Andrews go back-to-back picks, and then team number 10 with a Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon back-to-back, DeAndre Swift, and then Zay Flowers will push me back on the clock. And I'm very happy that the person I wanted most that I was going to take last round is still there. We're going quarterback, and we're going with that high potential. We are taking Anthony Richardson. We're going to stack him with Michael Pittman. I think that if they're healthy, that is going to be an explosive top 10 quarterback receiver combo.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. He had a lot of high upside to begin with last year before the injury, performing very well. I believe he was a top 5 quarterback performance in his start. So I do think that's a good pick as well. All right, so
quarters he averaged 18 points per game before he's out for the season, and he played maybe 12 quarters like he was. Anyway, it's your pick. Go ahead.
Yeah, so here I am, tight end receivers. I'm going to go tight end here. George Kittle makes just a lot of sense for me. Kyle Pitts is out there, but I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to wrap this with my flex pick, and I am going to go ahead and take a guy I think is going to have a good performance here in Rome Odunze. I'm a little bit of a flyer, but as a flex, I think it's a good flex option for where we're at in the draft.
That's a very good pick. And how crazy is it that we are in round 7 and we've seen 3 Bears receivers and a running back go already for the Bears? The offensive juggernaut they've turned into right now, right?
Yeah, who'd have thought? And the tough thing is going to be who's going to be the guy that can step up long term and build the best relationship with Caleb. And I think for me, that's why I went with Rome versus everybody else.
That's a great pick. I like that one a bunch too. And I think they already have a rapport going in. So then we saw Kamara, which I think is a great value in round 7. James Conner, Kyle Pitts, and T. Higgins go. My pick now in round 7 at pick number 7. We're going to go Zamir White, the running back for the Raiders. Might be a little bit high, but he's going to get the pill. Like I might have went a little Raider heavy here, but he's going to get the pill. So we went for his. We did see Caleb Williams go in round 7. So a full Bears rack here going in the first 7 rounds.
Yeah. It doesn't really surprise me that everybody's kind of hot pick for who's going to perform well. Obviously, if you guys are waiting for those from us, those are coming up here very soon. We're going to give you guys all our predictions for teams, but no surprise that the Bears and a guy named Da Bears is taking Caleb Williams. No surprise there.
And then follows it up with Xavier Worthy and getting a little bit of speed. So I'm going to stick in the NFC North for this pick. One thing we talk about PPR is you want to get targets. So I'm going to go down the board a little bit. I'm looking at Jaden Reed, arguably receiver 1 for the Green Bay Packers, and a guy Jordan Love targets a lot. He's used a lot in those end of rounds and those reverses, that sort of thing. So we're going to add Jaden Reed to the squad in round 8. So maybe a little bit of reach. I did just surpass guys like Terry McLaurin and Chris Godwin, but I think he's going to get a lot more opportunities. And when it comes to PPR leagues, I always favor opportunities over big plays. Sometimes there's exceptions like the Tyreek Hills of the world and whatnot. But in this case, I like his ability to get targets over maybe necessarily touchdowns.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I like that pick. I do have a potentially sneaky pick that's going to pop up here. We'll see what Jared does. But there is a pick sitting out here that in the 8th round where we're at a point where your only starting positions are defense and kicker left. There's a great opportunity to get a backup here who is probably going to play some good time for you and might be an underrated part of a lot of teams' offenses and a lot of their success. I'm going to go with the Broncos here with Javonte Williams. What's going to happen in that offense? It's going to be a run-heavy offense right now. Makes just a lot of sense. Beyond that, though, this is where I decide to double up, and I'm going to double up with running backs because we need running backs in the PPR league. So I'm going to go Austin Eckler. Moving to Washington. Why not?
Absolutely love it. And unfortunately, the CPU took who I was going to try and get on my swing pick here with Zach Moss. A few other names that have come off the board in the last handful of picks: Christian Kirk, Chris Godwin, Jordan Addison, Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, Hollywood Brown, and of course the aforementioned Zach Moss. And Nick Chubb just went, and Najee Harris. So everybody I was looking at just disappeared quick, fast, and in a hurry. So that is just my luck. So what do we do here?
And if Nick Chubb, go ahead.
I'd say we're taking Jonathan Brooks, the rookie out of Carolina, the first rookie off the board for my team. Someone's got to get the ball in Carolina, and he's as explosive as any of them. So we're going to take Jonathan Brooks in round number 9.
Yeah, and I was going to say about Nick Chubb is the thing that scares me with Chubb is how does he come back from this is being his second major knee construction on the same knee. How does he come back from that? Obviously, videos are one thing, but performance is a different thing. You're getting tackled by 300-pound grown men, play in and play out. How do you do? Obviously, I'm not really concerned about his physicality, but can he cut? Can he make the same moves he once was? That's my question. So that's why I didn't go with him. But I do like the ideas of getting him here in round 9, round 10 in this range. I think it's a value pick, and that's always a concern.
And we got our first surprise here in round 10 out of 12. We got our first kicker off the board is Justin Tucker going to the Bears at 10.2. Even I don't know if anyone heard that from Sleeper. It even said what the caught them off guard too. So
yeah, and every single special teams and kicker hater out there for the role just rolled their eyes. And mind you, I'm a big proponent of getting the top 5 kicker, getting someone in that realm, because I do think it's easy points that you don't have to worry about trading in and out and doing that every time. And potentially, if you have move limits, you don't have to worry about crossing those with getting a good kicker who doesn't get hurt.
Absolutely. And here in round 10, while you were saying that too, I decided to go take one right from the heart on you. I'm going to grab Ezekiel Elliott, round 10. He's the only running back in Dallas right now. So for better or for worse, he's going to be the dude there. I don't think he'll do a lot in the stat book. I don't think he'll be the Zeke that we saw jumpy in the Salvation Army donation bucket on Thanksgiving. There's no reason he can't score 12 touchdowns with how often they're going to get in the red zone throwing the ball around. So we're going to take Zeke as a flex option.
And that makes a lot of sense. And, looking here, we had Keon Coleman go off the board for Jared. Good pick there. I don't know if I do it yet. I was thinking about it maybe next round. Lad McConkey was one I was thinking of here. So 2 rookies back-to-back. Instead, I'm going to go a different route here. I am going to go with Christian Watson, who somehow is still sitting on our board because Green Bay is going to succeed. And I kind of double up there with 2 options for Green Bay success with a running back in Josh Jacobs and a top-tier receiver in Christian Watson. So what do I do after that? I'm going to go pick up a tight end who has never let me down once, and that's Dallas Goedert. Always succeeds for me. So there's my backup tight end. There's my backup receiver who's going to help me out in any bye weeks. I do have 2 running backs that have a bye in week 14. James Cook, Josh Jacobs both have week 10 and 12. So I'm good to go for week 10, week 12, and week 14 fill-ins for running back. All that I'm not concerned about. So now I just have to fill defensive kickers going in the last 2.
Yeah, absolutely as well. Noticing too, you have 1 pick left and you have yet to take kicker or special team. So you're falling into that realm of one of those is getting neglected for you. Oh no, whatever will you do? Which now leaves me at pick number 11 where I could do where I'm going to do almost the exact same thing, ironically enough. And I'm going to take Jackson Smith and Jigba, the receiver from Seattle. Tyler Lockett is not getting any younger. Jackson Smith and Jigba, a very elusive slot receiver, finds a way to get open. I think he will have plenty of opportunities to get the ball thrown his way. So we're going to take a guy with a high upside here late in the draft and someone who could possibly fill in with targets. And it swings right back to me as we do see a handful of kickers and defenses go. I'm going to go ahead and take a kicker right now. And as I look at the board, I'm going to go ahead and roll with Jake Moody, the kicker for the San Francisco. I think if nothing else, he will get plenty of PAT attempts, which I think will add up the points, and then plus the field goals when they stall out. So I will get a kicker. I won't ignore a kicker. I will grab one here late. But defense, I'm going to take my luck and kind of test matchups week to week with this league right now. I just have a little bit more favor with some of the extra players I was able to get that might be more useful. As Kelcey, you are up to round us out with the last pick in the 12th round.
Yeah, and it sucks because there's 2 kickers that I was looking at the entire time, and these are the 2 that I want to get. I'm going to take, I'm going to go with a guy that doesn't let me down at all. I'm going to go Daniel Carlson from Las Vegas. And let me be very clear, the reason why I'm taking a kicker for everybody, and I just talked about him, and I want to be honest about this. I always look at kickers as free points. I don't value a kicker to give me anything. But if I go with a kicker, it's usually my last 2 rounds, unless I can get Justin Tucker on like a 12th round situation or 10th round situation, then I take it. But I needed other things this time. And so here I am. I'm going to take Daniel Carlson. What I look for is a guy who plays for a team with maybe a mid-tier to new quarterback who you don't know what's going to happen, with a stronger defense than most, because that's usually going to put him in prime position to only have to gain 20, 30 yards to get into field goal position. But he also has a leg where between 40 and 50, he's pretty dang good. And so that's going to give me some free extra points if you're one of those PPR leagues as well. So that's why I go that route. Kaimi Fairbairn was my other option. I do like him as a kicker, although Houston right now with CJ Stroud, as successful as he is, and that offense as powerful as it is, I think he'll get less opportunities than he had in the past. And that's why I didn't go Fairbairn and decided to go Daniel Carlson, which is a lot of analysis for why I took a kicker. But honestly, I think it's free points at the end of the day in your fantasy leagues, and it's never let me down. I've won many, many weeks because of a kicker. So
Yeah, absolutely. With kicker, it's almost like I just don't want to get negative points or like 2 points or something like that. I just don't need you to hurt me. If you could contribute all that, that is great. I think getting someone like Carlson's very safe for that because the Raiders, I think, will move the ball underratedly decent. However, I'm not 100% sure what we can expect from them as far as scoring touchdowns necessarily. So I think he'll get a lot of opportunities. Real quickly, while we look at it, I'm going to just run through the teams that we have right now, too. We could just kind of look at our teams and evaluate them. I love what I was able to do at the top of the draft. I think Breece Hall is going to be outstanding. Last year, he had 95 targets, and he wasn't even supposed to play at the start of the season. He kind of rolled in and was sharing with Dalvin Cook early. I think this year we know what Aaron Rodgers does with running backs, too. We saw what Aaron Jones did in the passing game. I think he's going to be awesome. Devontae Adams, once again, it's still Tay Adams. No matter what way you slice it, it's still Tay Adams. Like there's the Jimmy Garoppolo is not a quarterback right now, so I feel good about it because we saw it in the Netflix receiver documentary. They did not necessarily click, and he thought Jimmy was going to get him killed. Him and Aiden had a good rapport down the stretch, and we know, as I mentioned earlier, Gardner's going to put it up. One way or the other, he's going to put it up there for Tay. He's going to have his chances. Rashid White, maybe a touch of a reach, but I looked at the running back situation there, and I wanted to get somebody there a little bit early potentially. Like maybe I could have gone in another direction, but I like Rashid White as the number one option. He's going to get the ball. Michael Pittman, I already mentioned he's going to get a lot of targets. I think he'll get more touchdowns this year too. Dalton Kincaid, high upside tight end. Anthony Richardson, once again, I wanted to stack him with Pittman. The touchdowns he does that Pittman doesn't get are probably going to go to Anthony Richardson on the goal line. And then looking down the stretch, I might have reached a touch with Zamir White and Jaden Reed. Maybe if I could have got them all one round later, that would have been ideal. But it was in that case, like there wasn't a whole lot of running backs to pick where Zamir White, and I didn't want to end up too thin there. So that's kind of what I was looking at there. Then the rest of them were just guys I think could be very good contributing flexes. So, I'm good with my team. I don't know about you, Kelcey. You started number one. You basically had no chance there to miss out. So how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I don't hate it. Look, my 1-of-1 is Justin Jefferson. Yes, there's questions, and the big question is his quarterback. How good is JJ actually going to be? I don't know that answer, but I do know this. If the ball is within 180 square meters of, not really that close. I don't honestly, or that far. I don't really know what his catch radius is, but it's stupid. Justin Jefferson's catch radius is insane. So I feel comfortable with him giving me, at the very least, probably one of the highest number of targets every week. And then from there, I was like, all right, well, round 2, this is where I ran into an issue. I probably could have waited on the quarterback, but I didn't want to lose out on that potential run in round 3 where a lot of teams like to take quarterbacks. So I didn't know if I really wanted to wait that long for the last pick in the 4th round to have my next quarterback. And so took it with Josh first and just kind of hope he has a good season. He does always have a high passing numbers, high number of attempts. So it's never that big of a concern there. It's just a matter of the picks, depending on your league, how your settings are. If they're big negatives, that hurts. And if he has a good season, it doesn't hurt as bad. Josh Jacobs, again, that's one that might – some guys are going to be iffy. I, again, probably could have waited on him a little bit. I don't know if I could have really waited that much, though. And I wanted to get a running back because I hadn't gotten one in round 1. Didn't get one in round 2. So in PPR leagues especially, you need to get one. And Josh Jacobs is going to carry the ball more often in Green Bay, but he's still likely going to split carries, and that's always an issue. He's going to be very touchdown heavy for success in the fact that he's going to get touches in the middle of the field, but his real points are going to come in the end zone, in the red zone, in really the gold zone, the 10 yards and in is where he makes his money. So if he gets those opportunities, I think Jacobs will be good. Those 2 picks right there, 2 and 3, they concern me. I think round 4, James Cook, I honestly kind of was surprised he snuck around that long. I thought for PPR league specifically, It makes a lot of sense. Plus, it doubles up with my quarterback. So my quarterback throws the ball to Cook a lot, and that makes just a lot of sense to have a double up there. Wrapping with Tank Dell, I'm a big fan of what CJ Stroud and Houston's able to do offensively. So I wanted to get either Nico or Tank Dell. I thought I could sneak Nico past Jared. I was wrong. I didn't make it that far. So I went with the next best option, which was to go with Tank. I do think Tank, obviously coming off the injury, little concerns for how he might perform year 2 as well. We'll see how that goes. But I covered him with a couple picks later on. George Kittle, I think, is one of the best tight ends in the league, and why people keep sleeping on him. He is our, 6th tight end off the board. And of those up in front of me, Trey McBride, I'm not as big of a fan of Dalton Kincaid. Sam Laporta is a really good tight end. I don't know if I'm that big of a fan of him to take him in round 2.
Yeah, that was pretty early. I like Sam Laporta, but round 2.9 felt a little high.
Yeah, Travis Kelcey made a lot of sense. Mark Andrews, I honestly was thinking about taking him where I took Tank Dell, so that makes a lot of sense as well. But I was left with Kittle sitting on the board, and I wasn't going to try to go with Pitts over Kittle or Ingram or Njoku, although I do like Njoku that late. I like Kittle here, and I just think it was a safe option to go get a guy who is going to catch the ball. He's going to get targets. And in that offense, especially with Brock Purdy, he is their safety valve a lot of times. So I love that option. Rome Odunze. I'll be honest, this is probably a reach for some, but I think this is one that's going to pan out. I think of the Chicago receivers, Keenan Allen is getting older. And then you have DJ Moore, who is right in the middle, but he's also part of the old regime, if you will, in Chicago. So that's concerning for how well he meshes with somebody like Caleb Williams, who loves to have guys he likes to throw the ball to. And we all know they have a great relationship. So I went Rome here, who is all the physical talents, plays out of the slot, plays out wide, can do everything in between. He's going to get targets. Matter if he can stay healthy, which I don't think is a concern. And then moving down, Javonte, Austin Eckler back-to-back. I like these as fill-in guys for any bye week I need, any injuries. They're going to get receptions for Austin Eckler. They're going to get touches for Javonte Williams. I mean, there's nothing in Denver that's going to concern me about taking away touches from Javonte Williams. I'll be honest about that. There's not a single thing in the world that I'm concerned about making Javonte Williams just sit out there and not get touches. So 20 touches a game, that's great for me. But 15, still better than I would get anywhere else. Austin Eckler, probably going to get you 20 combined between receptions and touches, handoffs. So, we obviously know he's not going to tote the ball 25 times because that's why he left LA. And then pick after that, Christian Watson. I mean, come on. Why would I? This one sat around for so long, and given his explosive ability, how he can literally just run past dudes who are athletic, and he makes them look unathletic. I'm going to take that option as a boom and bust and a fill-in for a flex position if I need to. It just made a lot of sense. Dallas Goedert for me. The next pick after that, tight end. He's been one of my favorite tight ends over the years. He's always been my safety valve tight end. So I do like that. And then we just talked about Daniel Carlson, why I took Daniel Carlson.
Yeah, absolutely. I will let you know, James Cook at 4.10. He's not going to be there if I didn't already have Breece Hall, who they have the same bye week, and I didn't want to stack week 12 bye weeks in my top 3 picks. If I didn't have Breece Hall, he's not there for you. I am high on James Cook as well. I think he's going to be an outstanding running back. I do want to look at Jared's team here in the middle as another fellow person that we have in this draft. Amon-Ra St. Brown, auto pick, great pick. Saquon Barkley, great pick. I do like the Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith stack in rounds 3 and 5. I think that's a very, very good combo, and any week to week, each can get you 20 plus. Nico Collins, especially if you're in a league that gives you points for like 30, 40, 50-yard receptions, like the ones we've run before last year, we get extra points for big plays. I think he's going to be huge for that. I think Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs will probably take some of the targets, but no, Nico's going to get the ball. Like, there's no concerns about that.
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson, Rasheed Rice, Nick Chubb, some really good fill-in picks. Kyle Pitts. This is the year finally, right? Like, we are ready to be hurt again, like finally. But this time you're getting him at a more reasonable value. So I really like his draft.
Yeah, better than round 3, pick 4 is usually where he went.
Yeah, some of those earlier ones where it just cost people so much. But and then we'll look at the Bears too. Bijan, obviously great spot for Bijan. Circling around with Marvin Harrison Jr. as his first receiver off the board too. I think he's going to get a lot. Him and Trey McBride are the options when it comes to Arizona. That's who Kyler's going to throw the ball to, and Kyler loves to throw it outside. Yep. So there's going to be options there. I like that pick a lot. Stephon Diggs and CJ Stroud stack back-to-back. That's a really good one, especially where you got them. Mark Andrews, we know Mark Andrews. DeAndre Swift, number 1 running back there, too. He's going to get the ball one way or the other. Did bring in Caleb Williams fitting to the name as well. I do think it's interesting. Two quarterbacks within 4 picks of each other too. So I think that's that's a really good way to have an extra option too, just depending on matchups and that sort of thing. Xavier Worthy, as we mentioned, those big play touchdowns. I can't imagine him not scoring at least 140 to 50 plus yard touchdown, if not a few of them this year. Then all reliable D Hop, Dustin Schultz, and Justin Tucker. So a really good pick from everybody too. That I think honestly it kind of rounded out pretty good. I think we did pretty well with these ones. I don't have too many complaints. I don't think we have an option to get like a rating system because I would love to see what they said with it doesn't look like they have an option. I'd love to have it like professionally graded and be like, all right, so what did they think in comparison to what we think? But that's kind of the idea of what we are looking at. For those of you who are watching on the live stream, you're able to kind of see the teams. Those of us on audio, hopefully we gave you kind of an accurate enough description of what we were looking at there as well. There is a lot of time left until fantasy football drafts. Well, depending as well too. There's a handful of time depending on when you pick. I like to pick closer to the season because I hate injuries in preseason, injuries especially.
Yes.
But for those of you drafting early or in dynasty leagues too, time's coming up as well too. We're here to help you with everything you need fantasy football wise to the best we can, combining stats, statistics, analytics, along with film study and good vibes as well too. So we try to bring the best of both worlds and see what we can do. Nothing's perfect, nothing's right, and one little divot in the turf can change the entire season no matter what. But we're here to give you as many tools as you need heading into your mock drafts for whatever league it might be as well. So definitely want to tune in for this. We might have another one of these coming up before too long too. I mean, we do have a few episodes left before the NFL prediction series starts, so we do got a lot to get into there as well. So, Kelcey, before we head out into crunch time, do you have any quick things about this fantasy mock draft? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think it's a good early season one, but as you said, I am a big proponent of picking close to the season, as my multiple years of Tim Patrick being picked and then the day or a week later him being injured. God, it kills me every year. We had our breakdown of how good he was going to be for fantasy, and I broke it down how good he was going to be. He was lighting it up in preseason. Next week, down in practice. I could not believe it. I picked him the same day. I had that conversation. Absolutely broke me up because he's such a good talent, and just unfortunately 2 knee injuries. Not going to really succeed after that. Tough to come back from. So yeah, no, I do like this. I like getting an early season one. I like getting a kind of middle of training camp vibe, see how that's going, because obviously then you get a real shakeout of where players are going to actually be, how their snap share is going to look, just based off of the practice. Obviously, I'm not talking about games in preseason because they don't play in games anymore. But you do get an idea for how they're going to shake out in practice, who's taking the ones, who's taking the twos, to get a good idea of how to pick, so you're not picking somebody in round 7 that's not going to play a snap, and that's important. Obviously, big pick last week of preseason is a great time to pick. But yeah, if you guys need more information on this, be sure to stay tuned for this. Also, tune in to our Fantasy Football Expo content that's going to happen here in August. We're going to be there August 9th through the 11th. So yeah, we will be at the Fantasy Football Expo, giving you a whole bunch of breakdowns and wrap-ups from the night of. We might have a special sponsor on the way for that one, but you'll just have to wait and see for that information.
Yeah, absolutely as well too. And that was a pretty good way to kind of wrap it up too. It's like lots to come with fantasy football. We appreciate y'all for coming here with us as well. And before we get out of here too, we do want to go ahead and jump into crunch time really quickly, brought to you by our good friends over at Outlier. Go to outlier.bet /HighLowSports. Get yourself a free 7-day trial to bet smarter and not harder. And that's kind of what we were looking at. That's kind of how we're going to wrap up with crunch time as well too. Just be sure to tune in for the fantasy football stuff and the bets as well too. A lot more coming with bets as well. Expanding the sports stuff for all of you that like to join. So be sure to follow us on our social media pages as well as follow the podcast as well. We got a lot coming up. Some big UFC fights that we'll be looking at bets for, fantasy football, obviously, our weekly football bets, and of course, as we mentioned earlier too, and our annual tradition of going on 5 years now at NFL preseason predictions. As we've done the last few years, we're breaking it down division by division, giving you predictions after going through each game of the schedule. That'll be starting in the day before the Fantasy Football Expo. That'll be starting that first Wednesday in August and lead us right up until the day before kickoff. So you definitely don't want to miss out for that. And kickoff's going to be weird this year with a Thursday and a Friday night kickoff this year. So, you definitely don't want to miss that. We're going to have some fun with this one with bringing back the guest speakers from a fan doing predictions alongside us too. And we saw how wacky some of those got last year as well. There were some real goofy ones that
they got wacky, but honestly, they might have had better picks week to week sometimes than us. I don't get it, but it worked out some weeks. So yeah, that's absolutely wild.
Much better than what we came up with. Other times it was like, how did we get here and everything in between? But definitely looking forward to that. So we appreciate y'all for joining us here once again. Awesome job by the American League. Come back in the All-Star game as well. we got a whole lot more coming. Fantasy football season's right around the corner. NFL football season plus college football season. And for those of you playing NCAA football, the college game after 10 years, we finally made it, boys. It's addicting. Those FCS teams are not real. They are cheating on Heisman difficulty. It is unfair.
I swear.
It's ridiculous.
Do not do what I did. Do not pick UAB and schedule Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State in weeks 2, 3, and 4. Sorry, 1, 2, and 3. Don't do it. And don't do it on Heisman difficulty because you're going to try to kick a game-winning field goal. And guess what's going to happen? That thing's going to be bouncing around faster than Tyreek Hill runs a 40, or Xavier Worsley runs a 40 in this case. And there's no chance you have of getting anything to go. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I played all 3 of them away already in week 1 or in my first season with UAB. Worst idea I've ever made is like, oh, I'm going to make an impact. Nope, shouldn't have done it. Should have just gone for the wins. Should not have gone for the upset picks.
Look at the bright side, though. It came down to a game-winning field goal. You definitely cover that spread because UAB versus any of those 3 teams, that spread is double digits and some. So you cover the spread guy, you won some people some money. So you did what was important.
Yeah, no, look, it's a lot of fun. It's addicting, and we haven't even hit the full fun of it. Be sure to stay tuned. We're probably going to get some content out here relating to CFB 25 here soon. We'll see. We'll try. There's a lot going on in the world, but we'll see if we can get it done.
Either way, we appreciate y'all for joining us here on this Wednesday evening, or if you're listening to us later on in the week as well. We'd love to have it doing this fantasy football mock draft. If you're a fantasy football nerd like us too, be sure to reach out to us. Maybe we'll get you into our next one as well. Right now we had 4 users. We might add a few more users next time as well, just to have a little more spice to it. So we appreciate y'all for joining us. We will see you all again next week.